showing love and loving who they are so that you can love their story allows for a lot of very open and vulnerable conversations.
Welcome to Vulnerability Muscle, the inspiring podcast challenging norms and helping you redefine vulnerability as a strength. I'm your host, Reggie D. Ford. Each episode of Vulnerability Muscle dives into a variety of topics such as mental health, social issues, and mindset shifts. We explore the power of vulnerability in fostering meaningful connections, healing, building resilience, and promoting personal growth. Sometimes these conversations are uncomfortable, but good workouts often are. So join us and flex that vulnerability muscle.
Welcome to the Vulnerability Muscle, the empowering podcast challenging you to redefine vulnerability as a strength. And it's a strength that helps us connect, to heal, to grow. It humanizes us through our stories that we tell. And today we got a guest that I'm so excited to be talking to right now, Darius Moore. What's up, Darius?
My brother. What's up, Reg?
How you doing, man?
Man, I'm great, man.
Good.
Great.
Darius is a friend of mine who I've gotten to know and had some deep personal conversations with over some years now.
Yeah.
And I feel like we were just talking like so many of our conversations that we've had. We should have been recording these a long time ago.
Sure.
And so this is one that I'm excited about. But introduce yourself, Darius.
So I am Darius E. Moore, the one and only Darius E. Moore. You might find a Darius Moore here and there, but it's just me. I'm the only Darius E. Moore. So originally from West Tennessee, Jackson to be specific. It's about an hour from Memphis for anybody who doesn't know. One of 5 kids. I'm the middle child. My parents both live back in Jackson. My dad is a military vet. My mom is basically a retired teacher and caregiver. And then I have 2 older siblings and 2 younger, so I'm smack dab in the middle. But I currently reside in Gallatin, Tennessee, which is about 30 minutes from Nashville, with my wife and my daughter.
All right.
My beautiful wife. I need to make sure she hears that. My beautiful wife.
Beautiful and beautiful daughter.
Beautiful daughter, for sure.
Yes,
for sure.
Facts.
Yeah.
And your daughter's a freshman, right?
Freshman in college. Ooh. It's her first year. So she graduated early from high school and is on the college journey already. Hopefully, we're hoping to get her into Clark Atlanta in the fall, but she's taking some prereqs at a local college and just to get some stuff going. But
Clark Atlanta, any folks out there represent, y'all know, reach out, help us out.
We're trying to get
one of the more.
Throw some scholarship here and there. You know?
Yes.
We'll take it. We'll take what we can get. But yeah, man, so I've been in the Middle Tennessee area for off and on over a decade. Went to MTSU, proud Blue Raider.
Let's
go Blue Raiders. And so I left and I came back and been working in multiple spaces, mostly in the finance world or nonprofit. And so excited to be able to see what Nashville is now, because it was very different when I left back in like 2012. 2013, and then I came back in 2015, 2016. It's just a completely different dynamic. So yeah.
But you've been modest. So you've been in the nonprofit space and the finance space, but you've been a leader in those spaces. Yeah. You've been a leader in cultivating positive culture and cultivating building good relationships with people. And you're one person who I know can talk to anybody. You got that.
My dad said I got the gift of gab.
Yeah. So you can talk to anybody, but in a way that makes them feel like they matter and like their presence is important. And I think that is something that you have built throughout your entire career. But talk about this new old endeavor of yours, more development and consulting group.
Yeah, man. So the focus is really to help organizations and individuals take care of the people that work for them and that help to bring their vision to fruition. So my general focus is always to help keep your people, build them up, help them to feel good about where they work, but also let that be the same energy you take out into the community when you're going to try to get clients. And so my focus is business development with an emphasis on talent and professional management within your organization.
You heard it. Let's go. Yeah, I like that.
I love it, man. And I'm going to cut you off. So I love people. And I understand that relationships are really what makes everything work. And so instead of thinking about people as stats and as resources, you think about them as the individuals and as family members.
Yes.
And so that's what I try to curate with the cultures and companies I work with.
I love that. Like, especially in organizations, like thinking about people over profits. When you think about outside of organizations too, because you mentioned that when going out into the community, like carrying the same values that you do within your organization to your home life, to your personal life, so that you're not showing up as the boss who is talking about relationships and culture and all that, but then go to the grocery store and you're an asshole, but you are that all the way throughout your life. So I love that. And let's hop into, we're going to get into more of that, but let's hop into a segment called What Comes to Mind.
What comes to mind?
We might have to clip that and keep that.
It just popped in my. I always have these vibes that come through, and then it's like
That's the
music
creator.
always playing in my head. So
That's the creator in you.
No
yeah.
doubt.
All right. So ask everybody this, but what comes to mind when you hear the word vulnerability?
I would say openness. I would say openness and transparency about what's really going on inside, and not just the things that you expect to say, the boxes that you're checking, but actually how you're feeling, what's really going on inside, from moment to moment. But not just hey, I'm feeling happy or sad or everything is good. It's the deeper conversation around what's going on inside of you.
What's going on inside? All right, we're gonna tap into some of that, but what do you do to center yourself when you're feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or maybe even depressed?
So I'll and I want to pivot, but I want to make sure I include this because yesterday I had a life moment, and I was reminded of the fragility of life. And my daughter was in a car accident.
Oh man!
Totaled the car. She was just a mess when she was just really hurt. She was suffering, and when she called us, and it was a crazy moment. We had to go see about her, and fast forward after we get everything resolved, she was okay. She was fine. She was healthy. The other people involved were healthy.
Okay.
We brought her home, and one of the things you talk about, how do I kind of regulate myself, is like that's something I talked about with her is just breathing. I think about, and I'm very connected to God. I'm a firm believer in and have a relationship with Christ, and I believe that when we breathe in the breath of God, and I think that's a way for us to heal internally and work out those things that are naturally in our bodies. Whether it be the stress, the tension, the frustration, the hurt. We breathe in that fresh air and breath of God, and we breathe out the energy that we don't need.
Wow.
So meditation, and I was talking with her about that. I was like, you're feeling something in this moment. Take time to feel that, and don't suppress it, and don't just push it to the side and move on and just try to get over it. Feel your feelings, but breathing, regulating yourself. I'm a big proponent of breath work.
Yeah.
And so it's taking the time, whether it's from your diaphragm or your chest. And
Yes.
we talked about this before. Breathing, letting that air come in and letting that bad energy or whatever go out. But just meditating, mindfulness, man, just sometimes sitting quietly from your thoughts. I saw an interview that Denzel Washington did, and he was talking about like the first thing he does in the morning is not what the typical person does. I just get up and I go sit in silence, quiet. Like I don't go for my phone or anything like that. And I do that.
It changes your day.
It does, man. I try to be very intentional about creating a space where I'm at peace.
Yeah.
And there's silence, and I can just feel the presence of God, or just the peace of the universe.
Definitely.
Before we get into anything else.
I love that. And I want to say I'm glad that your daughter is okay.
Thank you.
Physically, I'm sure that psychologically it will continue to impact her, and just a lot of fear around driving even. So I hope that she continues to heal and work through that. But I love the example that you set of going to her and giving her some of your tools of breathing. I am a huge proponent for breath work and doing some box breathing, all different types of pranayama for my yogis out there. But I hope I said that right. It's a whole Sanskrit word.
You just dropped a random term, and I was like, "What is that?"
Look,
I don't know what
it's a Sanskrit word.
So we're on camera, so y'all see my face, but I can't hide my face.
Look,
so
I'm hoping I said that right, because my yogi folks, my yogi folks gonna be like, "Listen, he's trying to sound like you know something," but no, pranayama is breath work, and it's a Sanskrit word, which is the language behind yoga and all that. But like box breathing, I want to tap into that because I think, to your point, breathing helps us regulate our nervous system and is a tool, resource that most of us have the luxury of doing on our own at any given time. It's free. And so to take advantage of that at any time, whether you sitting here listening to me talking, you doing box breathing. When I say box breathing, that's inhaling for a count of 4, holding for a count of 4, exhaling for a count of 4, holding for a count of 4, and doing rounds of that. It'll help regulate you, calm you down when you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or whatever. So I love that. And then also letting her feel what she needs to feel in order to heal. Let's go.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's something I've learned and got a better understanding from my wife. My wife is actually a therapist. Shout out to Felicia.
Shout out.
Yeah, she's a LMSW, so she's a licensed social worker, therapist, family therapist, focusing on play therapy.
Okay.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
She may not want me to shout that out right now, but I'm gonna shout it out.
Yeah.
But because of what she understands and her academic knowledge and her knowledge of therapy and understanding how to regulate yourself, I've learned a lot.
Good.
And it's helped me to grow and understand how to regulate myself, but also how to recalibrate when I'm having a moment. And then very much try to pour that into my daughter Lacey when she's struggling.
I love that. So speaking of play therapy, it reminds me of childhood. And so the next question is, what is one of your favorite childhood memories?
Oh, man. I'll tell you one, and it's so many, but I'll tell you one specifically. It was when we got my first dog, Spike. I remember going down to, which is kind of odd, but I grew up in the military. So I grew up on base. So I grew up in Fayetteville, Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty, Pope Air Force Base. And so it was a small community. Everything was kind of right within proximity. All the houses were close. And so we walked down to a neighbor's house, and I think my mom knew this neighbor had some dogs. And I don't even remember what kind of dog it was, but I went down there with my little stool. I had a little yellow stool, and I took it down there, and that's what I carried Spike back in.
Wow.
And I'll never forget that feeling of like, oh, this is mine. Like now I have a responsibility, and I don't know how old I was. I had to be probably like 7 or 8.
Okay.
But it was just a really fun moment.
Yeah.
But it's like that was my very first dog, and I've had a bunch of dogs. Not gonna get into all of that, but that was my very first dog, and that was a cool memory to have something that I own, that like something living, breathing that depended on me.
Yeah.
And that was I don't even know why I haven't really thought about that, but that was
I'm glad you did.
That obviously meant something to me.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. And I think so I asked that to kind of find a place, a resource, if ever this conversation gets overwhelming. I want you to come back to your breath. I want you to come back to carrying Spike home and some of those positive memories that you have from childhood. So
I appreciate that.
That's beautiful, man.
Therapist Reggie.
So I
appreciate you.
I am not that. I am not that. Felicia, get him. But I'm excited to learn a little bit more about that backstory. So you opened up a little bit about being in a military family and your parents. Just tell me what it was like. What childhood was like for you? What was growing up like for you?
It was beautiful, man. Honestly, and I think what I come to realize as I've gotten older is that I had a very sheltered, very curated view of the world in my existence. And when I say curated view of the world in my existence, it was my mom was always kind of trying to make sure that, and my dad was trying to make sure that what I understood and what I saw and was exposed to was appropriate for my age. So they allowed me to be a kid, allowed me to just use my creativity and explore and use my imagination. So I was always able to play, and that might have been because my mom, like, this was before, like, YouTube and all of that was a thing. And so maybe it was a way for my mom to
get out the house,
get a breather, go play by yourself.
Get out the house.
And so that has always been my thing. Like, I've always been perfectly comfortable by myself.
Yeah.
I'm a very big advocate of self-care, but for me, self-care is just being intentional about spending time with myself and being okay with just being quiet and being still or finding those things that bring me joy. And so growing up, my mom was always nurturing that. She was nurturing my creativity, nurturing, my self-care. What are the things that I enjoy doing? And then my dad, where he kind of added a whole different dimension that I think I tap into much more now is having intellectual conversations with me.
Okay.
And I was actually talking with him yesterday. And one of the things I was telling him, I was like, I really appreciate you always having deeply intellectual conversations with me, but at my level. At the appropriate level. So whatever the age was, you weren't ever talking over my head. We were just talking. You asked me, how are things going? Like, tell me what you're thinking about. Like, you're thinking about something. You can't just be thinking about nothing. And,
Right.
But also, because he was a military man, being very intentional about the words that I spoke.
Okay.
I had to be very
impeccable with your words.
Yeah, articulate. That's why I'm very articulate now. I still get a little lazy with my mouth every now and then, but at the same time, my dad was like, "You're going to talk right. You're going to say words. You're going to know what you're saying. If you say a word, you better know what it means and know how to define it. Like you have to be spot on with what you say."
So he didn't let you just blurt out pranayama like.
No, that was a good way to get him up. Like you might catch these hands, but no, it was always a structured. I grew up with structure and discipline. But the discipline was, and I would say it was more discipline than punishment. So
Okay.
I think sometimes there's a misconception around discipline versus punishment, and it's like I wasn't punished like much, if at all. I was disciplined, and it was to help shape my path and help me to understand like this is the direction you need to go.
Yeah.
Like, don't wander aimlessly. Make sure you know where you're going, but also understand that life is meant to be lived. And my mom nurtured that. She nurtured that opportunity for me to always enjoy wherever I was, the space that I was in, and just find those things to find ways to have joy in any individual moment.
That's
while my
what's
dad
up.
was nurturing that. Hey, you need to understand things. You need to be able to speak to things. You need to have a very concise way of understanding the world around you.
That's beautiful, man. And it's you spoke to discipline versus punishment, which I think is powerful because there is a misconception that that to punish is to discipline, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. And but you also said something that I don't want to glaze over is that you might catch these hands.
Yeah.
Well, was that part of some of the discipline as
Corporal
well?
punishment was definitely something that was implemented in my household.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And this is at a different time. So
very different age. It probably would have been abuse now. But like my mom and my dad. My mom was typically the more consistent disciplinarian. So she was the one that if we step out of line, we get popped. She may pop us with a spoon, or we get a whooping with a belt. Which
hit with a spoon though.
Yeah, man. Listen, so my mom grew up in rural West Tennessee. Her and my dad, they grew up in rural West Tennessee, and I still remember vividly my cousins always talking about, even once we got older, it was like, you get hit with whatever they can get their hands on. Like,
facts.
You acting crazy, you step out of pocket, they're gonna pop. Because I think, and I would say that the context of that is they had already taught you how to act and how to behave and what you should and shouldn't do, and how to behave when you need to behave and where.
Yep.
And so being mindful of that, it was what was the phrase? Don't embarrass me.
Yep.
Yep. You embarrass me, I'm gonna embarrass you.
Make me look like a fool. Yeah.
And so that was the context. I say that was the context, and again, going back to what I said before in terms of having a very curated experience, like it was very much a you get this, but this is why conversation with me. Like I got disciplined, but then it was a conversation afterwards, and it was like,
That's beautiful.
I whoop you because I love you, and it's like.
We got to challenge that a little bit. Yeah.
But then it was like, this is why you got discipline.
Right. That's good to have that conversation because as a child, you need to have something that connects the dots.
You do.
In your brain. Because you're gonna assume and internalize something that is like, oh, I got a whooping because of something that's totally unrelated, totally over here. And then you continue on that same narrative throughout your life, and it affects your personality, it affects how you show up in the world. So though it was abuse then and now, we just didn't classify it as abuse then, to have those conversations as these buffering experiences help to make sense of it all.
Yeah, and I would say I don't think either my mother or my father wanted to have to discipline us because they didn't like getting disciplined that way. But it was, and the conversations were to help us understand it, and such that we didn't internalize. And I don't know what my mom or my dad did as far as education. Like back in the day, I just know they worked. My mom was she was into education. She had her own daycare at home, but they really understood, I think, the psychology behind disciplining your children, and why you need to have those conversations. I think they were probably ahead of the game with the gentle parenting.
Yeah,
it wasn't gentle. It didn't feel gentle physically, but it was gentle in the way that they explained it and in the way that they helped us to understand and contextualize. For me, anyway.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you said that like you had these intellectual conversations with your dad, and your mom like prioritize living and joy in life, but they also let you be a kid. And I think, like for me personally, there were moments, especially through sports, where I got that to be a kid, but so many other aspects of life, I had to grow up too fast and be exposed to things that kids shouldn't be exposed to at the ages that I was exposed to them. And that steals away. There's grief in that because it steals away, when I think about some of those childhood experiences, when I think about, they're hard to pull because it didn't feel like I was a child. It didn't feel like I was being able to experience that joy if it wasn't on the football field or basketball court, right?
Well, so I'm curious, and not to turn it on and say, but like you talk about there's a grief attached to that. Tell me about, like, help me to understand that differently.
So being an adult now and hearing someone when I ask that question to all guests and hearing them talk about different moments in their childhood, and I'm like, damn, that's childhood. That's you being a child. And the grief is the wish that I had that same experience or a similar experience. I can't go back to being 5 years old. I can't go back to being 6 and experience that joy and that bliss and that innocence. And so that's where the grief comes in at. It's like missing out. Like what was lost, grief is attached to loss. What was lost was a childhood that could have been.
I feel you on that. I think what stuck out to me and what you're saying is just like, it's almost like you had an envy of that experience. But then thinking about it in the context of, everybody has experiences what they're supposed to when they're supposed to. And though you having the experience of not doing some of those things helped shape you into the man that you are now. And so like, had you been nurtured and coddled and like, given this playtime or whatever it was, you may not have the understanding of things that you've had and being able to have the drive that you have to be independent and build who you are. So I not to say that your feelings are not invalidating it, but I always like to give alternative perspective. And so like, because there's opportunity in seeing things differently, right? And I don't know if anybody's ever seen the Inside Out 2 movie, but
love it.
I thought one of the scenes that was really cool is they rotated it was like a memory, and they rotated the memory and saw it from a different perspective. And I think that was so powerful because I think that's the key. And, and I talk about my curated experience as a child, like my brother, I have an older brother and an older sister, and then I have 2 younger sisters. Like their experience and what they saw and were exposed to, or what they understood, how they understood things was very different than mine.
Right.
And it's just perspective. And sometimes we just have to have that slight shift to really understand things differently. And so I'm always going to encourage people to like, here's an alternative way to think about it.
Yes. And I love the reframe because that's something that I've had to apply to my life in various stages. Like even when you think about reframing vulnerability as a strength, right? This is not like if you say the word vulnerability, even if you go to ChatGPT, Google, whatever, it's going to show you sadness. It's going to show you weakness. And it's like, that doesn't have to be the case, but it's contrary to what we've been taught, what we've been shown. So reframing PTSD, right? Perseverance through severe dysfunction, which is my book. It's like we can dwell on the post-traumatic stress disorder, or we can persevere through it. We can grow from it. We can learn from it. And so, I love that. And like just looking at it from a different perspective, because I don't regret any of my past. There's grief there and that comes, but there's no regret there. I love all the things that I've been through because they help shape me to the person I am today. Yeah. And I say, in order to love the person that I am today, I have to love all those different experiences and people and things that made me who I am today.
That's good. So it's funny. What really just occurred to me and what you just said is something a conversation that we had and my wife and I had in our therapy, and our therapist was saying like, sometimes you have to have those conversations with your inner self or your younger self to say, hey, this is not where we are anymore, or we don't have to do that anymore. And I thought about that in the context of self-discipline. Yeah. Sometimes self-discipline is being able to discipline your internal self.
Yeah.
And to say, hey, we don't have to do that, or we're not there no more. And being able to have that conversation with yourself to say, hey, I'm in a different place. And that puts things in context, I think is so important and powerful.
It is, man. You gotta I like that. Like the conversations we have with ourselves are so important.
Yes.
And we have to evolve. We're gonna evolve. And the things that served us at a time when we were in chaos, at a time when we were suffering, at a time when we needed it, may not serve us now. And you have to self-reflect, you have to do self-inquiry work, you have to sit still, going back to meditation and just reflect on who am I today, right? Because I can have the same perception of myself as a 16-year-old driving to Graham Central Station on Thursday night and going to school on Friday morning and acting like nothing happened. And that's like the highlight of high school for me and my boy D. But I can also see myself as the 33-year-old who is sitting right here in front of Darius and all the things that have evolved since that moment. But it takes intentionality. It takes intentionality. So. And
it's funny that you went straight into, because I was going to ask, like, how do you unpack that? How do you undo that?
Yeah.
That inclination to be like, oh, this is what I've always done, and so I'm just going to revert back to that, because you're essentially trying to break a cycle.
Yeah, it's a lot of cycle breaking, but I think you first have to analyze, like, does it still serve you or not? Like, what is the cycle, and does it serve me or not? Because some of those things when I was 16 still serve me, right? And so I can hold on to honestly, like when we're breaking cycles, it's not breaking the entire foundation of who we are. It may be breaking itty bitty bits and pieces of those things. And so if I can break, or if I can identify what those cycles are and then see if they're serving me or not, and then challenge myself to do something different. And that's the hard work, right? Because we can see it and we can say, man, I know I shouldn't be doing that. And I know damn well I shouldn't be doing that. But then taking the intentional action in the morning to not grab the phone and get up like Denzel does, and to just do small atomic. I know you've been reading Atomic Habits. Small atomic habits to reshape how we approach life. It's work. It's work, because we have like this default system in our brains. Our brains, we were talking about it earlier, like our brains want to be lazy. It doesn't want to use all the energy to reshape everything. It wants to categorize things. It wants to generalize things. It wants to make things easy for us. But to be intentional, to actually exert effort to do something different, you got to do the work.
That's good.
So,
that's good, Reg.
But we're talking about evolution. Well, I was talking about evolution. I don't know what you were talking about, but and so,
but here we are.
You mentioned some of the past and being raised by your parents, and I'm curious how that upbringing has shaped the professional that you are, and really speaking to how it leads to the powerful work that you do with organizations, with people, with building relationships. How has your past influenced the work that you do today?
That's good. That's a great question. I think about it really in the context of when you talk about a foundation, what was the foundation that was laid, and regardless of what my house looks like now and who I am now, what my life is now, like the foundation is still the same. And so the foundation for me was love and encouragement, but also a firm focus around intelligence and being able to say what you mean and mean what you say, and being able to understand exactly what it is that you're saying, instead of just saying a bunch of words. Like know what you're trying to communicate. And so I think as a professional, my focus is always to show love. And I say it's kind of odd to say that as a professional, but it's in my personal life too, to show love and to make sure that people feel, like you said earlier, seen. And I'm fully present and fully engaged in every conversation I have, because I care. Like I truly do. And I think as a professional, that's what I've tried to encourage the different spaces that I've been in and different roles that I've been in. I've tried to encourage the team to care, to show love, like treat people like they're your own family. If you have a dysfunctional family, maybe treat them like your friends.
Hey.
Just treat them like somebody.
I like that.
Treat them like yourself. Treat others like yourself. And so yeah, all my professional career has had a focus, and at the center has been, how do I show love? It could be in a way I might be showing love to myself to make more money in a job, or I might be showing love to the person that that needs it the most. So I may be talking to a coworker to say, hey, what's going on in your world? What projects are you working on that I can help you with? What things can I help make your life less stressful? But also when I'm going out and engaging with the community and clients is saying, hey, what is it that you ultimately want to do for yourself and your family?
Yeah.
How do you want your life to look? What do you want the narrative to be about? What it is you do. So working in the nonprofit world, when I would go out to schools and talk with principals, I'd ask them, hey, what is it that you really want your students to feel and experience when they come here? What is the vibe that you want your school to, and the ambiance you want your school to give off when people step in the building? What do you want partners to feel and experience when they're here? Because I think that's what you always go back to, and what I always go back to. Regardless of what your systems are, you're not trying to create a process. You're trying to create an experience.
Yeah.
And I always come back to that in any roles that I've been in. I'm trying to create an experience. And I talk about this being a culture curator. Is like I'm trying to create an experience in whatever role that I'm in. So in the nonprofit world, it's like, hey, what do you want people, donors, partners, what do you want them to experience? What do you want? How do you want to draw them in? What is it that you want to resonate with them once they're done with whatever the event or volunteer engagement is? And then in the for-profit world, in the private sector, is like, how do you want your clients to feel about working with you?
Right.
About what it is they're doing. Do you want this to be transactional or do you want it to be relational? And so I always, when I was an advisor years ago, I always wanted to have those conversations with any of my clients or potential clients, prospects, to say, hey, what is it that drives you? Find out more about them. And in the business, we used to call it fact finding.
Yeah.
You
got the fact finder checklist,
get your fact finder, go dig into it. But it was really just to understand the psychology and the emotion behind the decisions that people make financially, but also in terms of planning strategically for their families. And so it was always about learning and getting to understand people. And so that's always been a passion for me. And that comes from my mom teaching me and nurturing that creativity and really seeing me for who I was. And my dad saying, hey, you can have a conversation, you can use words, and they can be powerful.
Wow.
And so I incorporate both of those things, both of those concepts, and the what those roots. Shout out to the Givens and the Moores, my mom and my dad's side, respectively. Those are my roots, and just trying to make sure that the fruit of my tree reflects that.
Wow, that's beautiful. I love what you said, the culture curator, like curating culture, emphasizing people, putting people first. If you can be human-centered, because that's what all of this is about. It's about seeing people for who they are, humanizing a whole story, because
100%.
we know that we are here and we can be perceived as the person that we show up as, but there's so many different experiences, there's so many different backgrounds that create this person that's sitting in front of us. And we cannot get out of here without, you told me a story, or you alluded to a story about the ways in which your father has challenged himself and reflected on himself through his experience, and how that shows up and how you think about your experience. But can you, if you don't mind, if you feel comfortable opening up and sharing it?
It's already on record. You can probably find the conversation, find the story. But
look up the only Darius E. Moore and you'll find that. But here we go.
So my dad, so we grew up, my dad and my mom both grew up in rural West Tennessee. That's where they're from. I mentioned being a military brat and kind of growing up in North Carolina, but my family, my roots are West Tennessee, rural West Tennessee. And so when my dad was a kid, his father, who was a alcoholic and had a lot of demons that he was still trying to process, shot and killed his mother. My dad's father. My dad's father killed his mother. So my grandfather killed my grandmother.
Okay.
When my dad was a child. This is before he was. I feel like it was before he was even in high school. It may have been middle school. And so,
heavy.
With 10 siblings, with 9 siblings, 10 of them all together. Wow. They have to essentially become latchkey kids because they no longer have a mother and their father's going to prison. And so now they don't become wards of the state, luckily, because they have a community that wrapped around and say, hey, we'll take them in. But now they are they're nomads. And even though they had a family and a community that nurtured them and that taught them the right things, shout out to my Uncle Arnell. He was a beautiful human being. And but they had people that took care of them. They still didn't have the parentage there. It was missing. And my dad, and it's something that always stuck with me. My dad always said that, and I don't have a lot of pictures and images of my grandmother. I remember my grandfather. I met him multiple times. I spent time with him, and he's, old guy. He's since passed, but I don't have a lot of vivid pictures and images of my grandmother, Helen. And my dad always would say that my grandmother had sad eyes. And that's something that all of him and his siblings have now. And it's, I don't even think about myself as having them, but it's there somewhere, and sometimes it's a reflection that I catch, or a moment that I have when I have a, hard day or life is going rough and I feel that sad moment. But it stuck out to me because that's how he described his mother, but he also described his father in terms of that incident. And it shaped how he took care of his family, because when my mom and he got together, they weren't really planning to get married. It was kind of dating. It was a fling. And then one thing led to another. And my brother was born. And my dad found out years later, or found out after my brother was born, that he had a son. And my dad had went off to the military, and he came back home to rural West Tennessee, to Jackson, and found out, hey, I got a kid. And he was like, hey, I'm going to take care of my responsibilities. And I'm going to love my wife, my future wife, and my family passionately. And so I never forget what he told me about when him and my mom first got married. He said, if you don't love me now, you'll learn to love me. And it wasn't in a strong and aggressive, strong-armed way. It was more in terms of like, I'm going to do everything I can to provide for you and to show you what love really is supposed to feel like, because I didn't experience that. And so, I don't know, you asked earlier, how I was raised shaped how I am in the business and professional world. It's just trying to show love, man. Like everything I do, I try to show up and show love. And even if it's just having a conversation and hearing somebody's perspective and just asking them how they really are doing. Like, you don't have to fake the funk with me. Like, just tell me how you're doing, because I want to be there present with you. I really want to be engaged in what your experience is. And so, that experience for my dad, shaped how he cared about people around him and how he tried to show love and be kind. Not only to his family, but those he encountered. And I'm Kilo Mike Jr. My dad was Kilo Mike, Ken Moore. And, but I'm his son, good, bad, or otherwise. And this is a conversation we actually were having yesterday. He's like, as unfortunate as it is that, his dad did what he did, it's still his dad. And he embodies some of the characteristics of his dad to this day. Funny, kind of quirky sense of humor is like things that you don't, because of the incident and because of the nature of the relationship, you don't readily acknowledge. But as you get older, you have to acknowledge them. You have to embrace them, because it reflects the totality of who you are.
Yes, I love that.
And so that's what I would say is like, is part of that legacy from a tragic event. The legacy and the residual effect is showing love and being really honest about who you are and not trying to hide aspects of who you are. It's the vulnerability.
Yeah, the vulnerability of it, the authenticity of it. I love
100%.
that, man. And like you said, like the totality of who he was. Like there was an incident, it was a tragedy, and someone was murdered, and it happened to be your grandmother. And so an action was murder. He's not a murderer. He committed an action.
That's really
He's
good.
not a murderer. He's a human who has murdered somebody. We identify people oftentimes with actions that they've done, and that then shapes how they live their life, how they think about themselves, and then the future
Creates that
actions.
narrative.
Yeah, I am a murderer. So when stuff breaks out, when shit goes, I'm thought to be a murderer. I had a conversation on Vulnerability Muscle season 1 with my cousin, who as a 16-year-old murdered somebody and had to live with what people perceived him as early on in his life on something that doesn't define who he is. And if you met him today, you would never throw that label on him. But there was an action that took place at a time in the past. And so it's just like, how do we see people as humans? And I love that you keep bringing up the word love, That I love that you keep breaking up the word love.
Yeah.
I just finished rereading All About Love by Bell Hooks, and I think that is a great book.
Check that out.
If you haven't read it, if anybody hadn't read it, Bell Hooks All About Love, it challenges so many systems of patriarchy, of violence, of conquering, and how we see love. And like back to an earlier example of like, I can tell you I love you and then I hit you. But like abuse and love, they're two opposite things. And we, because of systems and because of modeling and conditioning, like we may associate those things to be the case, but are they? And can we challenge them? Can we reframe that and say, that doesn't feel loving?
Yeah, it feels contradictory.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at it for what it is, it's like, okay, that, like if I didn't hear any words that were being said, if I didn't see anything, any action, anything like that, and I saw that, and then you came up to me and said, I love that person, I just did that too. I'm not gonna think that.
So it's funny. It's funny. It's ironic when you're talking about that. Like I remember, and this is just a kind of a weird offshoot example, but when I first started working in banking, because I worked in banking years ago, I was working, before I got the job, I was working at Sears. Shout out to Sears. I don't even know if they're still around, but I was working at a department store.
I don't even know. Yeah.
And so one of the ladies that I worked with was this real old black lady. She was probably like in her 70s or 80s, like just basically done with retirement. And I remember she was just the sweetest lady. And I remember telling her about this job. And she was like, yeah, I worked in banking in New York for years. And she's like, the one thing that you have to always understand and always keep in mind when you're working in banking is the person that's right in front of you has no idea what you've been going through and what you've had going on, and you don't either for them. And so you have to treat every new conversation as just that, a fresh one. And not carrying your baggage or not identifying the person in terms, you don't know what's going on. And so that was my approach throughout my entire banking career. And it led to some promotions. It led to some good opportunities, professionally, but it always led to substantial relationships with the people, the clients, the customers, the members of our credit union, and the team around me, because I was always vested in those individual conversations and the stories, and that's continued to be the narrative of who I am to this day. And it's a huge aspect of how I live. It's like I always want to be vested in the person and what they got going on, and not giving them a narrative or identifying them in terms of an incident or whatever they had going on. And same thing for me. Like I hope that I can bring my authentic self, and whatever I have going on is not attached to me when I'm having a conversation with somebody. And you and I having a moment, to start this, like, you didn't know that my daughter had a car accident. No. I didn't even share that.
No.
Because, that's not relevant to our connection. It's relevant to me and it's heavy on me, but it's not relevant to our connection. My connection with you is my connection with you. It's not relegated to whatever I have going on in my world.
Yeah.
And so just trying to show up in a real authentic way and showing love and being loving of the person that you're talking to, and loving who they are so that you can love their story, allows for a lot of very open and vulnerable conversations.
I'm gonna let that breathe a little bit. I
Let that simmer on.
I like that. But I want to come back to your daughter, Lacey.
Lacey Lane.
This may challenge you a little bit. I don't know, maybe not. But what lessons have you learned from parenting Lacey, or from Lacey directly, that you apply to your life in the professional space or in other personal relationships that you have?
Oh, that's good. That's good, Reg.
What is it like to raise Lacey?
That's funny because I started writing a story about Lacey, really like it's like a offshoot narrative, kind of a sci-fi of like her life, and it's the misadventures of Stargirl. Because we used to say Lacey Lane, remember her name. It's just a catchy thing for her, and like she's just I've always just thought about her as a star. She's always been a star in my eyes, and early on, because I'm not her biological father, but early on, I just saw that she had star potential. Like I just saw that she had something special.
That's real.
You talk about lessons, and so this is a random anecdote. But the first time I ever met Lacey, we went to dinner or lunch at a place in Jackson, a restaurant in Jackson, and we ate. And she said it was time for like the food was over, and she's like, I can do a dessert. And we was like, but you didn't eat all your food. She's like, but I have a dessert part in my stomach that's open. She's like, this is the meat part, this is the vegetable part, and then my dessert part is still empty. And I was just like, what? But like that's how she sees the world, and it's such a beautiful thing because it's like it's her own unique perspective. And you know, and I love it. And even when I didn't fully understand her, and we haven't always been the closest, like. I just loved who she was. Like it's, you know, good, bad, or indifferent. Like, you know, teenage years were hard. It was a grind. Mm-hmm. But she taught me how to just live in the moment and not be so caught up in what's next and the things that I have to get to, you know, and like slow down a little bit and just enjoy it. You know, I always thought I enjoyed life and I, you know, breathe in the air, but she taught me to slow it down some.
That's beautiful.
You know, and just go for it, you know, and like I think she's brought out the inner child in me.
Yes,
like where sometimes I'm just like, I need to be more mature and kind of grow up, and then it's like, no, let's have a good time, let's do it, let's push it to the limit, and also I see myself reflected in her, and that's such an odd thing as somebody who is not a biological parent of a child is like. You take on my characteristics, like you know she run late for a lot of stuff, which I do that, you know, no problem. My wife would say otherwise, but it just like the way she gets ready, you know, her mannerisms, like how she is with people, and it's a funny thing. Like Lacey has this thing that everybody loves Lacey, like in the schools and whatever environment she's in, but she took something from me that I didn't realize until she got a little older in high school. So everybody that I know, and my wife hates this, but everybody that I know and I get connected to gets a nickname. You know, everybody gets a nickname.
What's mine?
I mean, you Reg. Reggie Reg.
You just made it easy on yourself. Okay.
I did. I don't know. I feel like I was trying to come up with something early on, but Reg felt better. Okay. Well, I don't know. I'll probably come up with something at some point. But everybody gets a nickname, and it speaks to the deep and personal connection that I have with them. Some people don't get nicknames because they don't like nicknames. I remember I had a guy I worked with in banking who he hated to be called anything other than Timothy. Okay. Like I was like, oh, what's up, Tim? He's like, no, it's Timothy.
Timothy.
And I get
put some respect on his name.
That's what you like. but everybody gets a nickname. And the reason why that is because it creates a level of personalized identity within me in terms of that relationship. But Lacey does that too. And I didn't know that she did that until like we went to school with her and they were like, yeah, she's like, that's Miss such and such. And it was like, oh yeah, that's her name. And so then I meet her and we talk with her and that's not her name. And it's like, what? You just calling this lady by some other name? And it's like, but Lacey does that.
That's
and
amazing.
It's like, you know, she just learned that randomly. And, you know, something I always told her whenever she would leave the house, and I still tell her to this day, I always told her, Lacey, be a superhero, not a supervillain. You know, because I think we all have a level of duality within us to and a propensity to do one or the other. It's just whichever one you lean into. And I know that she has that because she has a lot of me in her, and like, I know I had a little bit of that.
We got the angel and the demon.
I had a little bit of that. Like you might be a sociopath a little bit, like, and so I had to learn how to be more empathetic and learn how to be more connected to people, but also to seek out good and not evil. And so because I saw that in my child at an early age, I always told her like, Lacey, be a superhero, not a supervillain.
I love that.
Like her mom was encouraging her to be kind, and so. But it's been a reminder to me. You asked like what lessons has she taught me? Like she's taught me to be a superhero, not a supervillain.
That's dope. That's dope. And you said something when you first started speaking about her. You said you saw that she was a star. And I think that is something that we can see in everybody. Right? Everybody has star potential. And whatever it is that they are doing in life, and it may not be what you expect them to be a star in, but everybody has their own unique genius. Everybody has their own unique talents. And if we can see the stars and bring out the stars in everybody, then we build better relationships. We get to see people at their highest potential.
But Reg, you know what that is? you are loving people. When
Loving
you see
them
the star potential,
as they
you see
are.
you are loving them. You are loving
Yes.
who they really are. You're loving the heart of who they are.
Yes.
And
Ugh.
you see
Yes.
see everything they can be because you love them, and you see it differently. That's just the lens through which you see it. And I think if we can start seeing each other and the world around us in the context of that, in a loving way, love people.
People.
It'll create more of a connection and community, and we won't have such. I don't know. We just won't be so separated.
Yes.
And I think we won't have so much of a tendency to want to go be at odds.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the natural human tendency and propensity is it's odd because it's a duality, is to either be in community and have connection, or to be left the fuck alone. Like, leave me alone, or like, I want to be by myself. And it's like, and those are competing dynamics.
Yeah.
And so if we can find a way to understand that everybody has that, and how can we be able to find a way to connect to that need for community and connection, while also allowing people to do whatever it is they're going to do, and give them their autonomy. Like, don't try to force yourself, force your will and how you see things on people. Allow them to exist as long as it's not harming you. Like, leave them alone.
Yes.
Like, leave people alone.
Yes. You just reminded me of something.
No, you good.
Because when we force our will, we can do that more easily with adults than we can with children. And I just saw this quote.
Because kids ain't going.
Right. But I just saw this quote, and it was like, I'm gonna botch it, but so I'm gonna put it in my own words. But we have often said that childhood and kids, like, it's preparing them for life, right? When they're children, and the things that they go through, the discipline that I give them, the character building things that I give them, it's preparing them for life. But childhood is life. It is a part of life. And so when you go and insert yourself and try to change who they are, what they are, all of that while they're living, then you're not loving. That's good. You're not loving. And so I think we need to see children just as we see adults, with autonomy, with their own power, with their stardom. And I think that is a way to show that we love.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby. That's good.
Hey.
That's so powerful though. Like, I don't think I've always thought about that. And that's helped me to kind of
I love a good breath. Yes.
It just helps me to like see some things differently in terms of my early years as a parent for Lacey. Is like, you just learn to understand that they are living. They're not just like, they're just being a kid. It's like, no, that's life. Like, they're actually like figuring things out now. Like, you can't shortcut
brand
that.
New.
Like,
they're brand new.
Yes.
We call the
journey.
people toward the end of their life old. We don't call the people at the beginning of their life new. But I think if we said these new people, then we'd start giving them a little bit more grace for all the mistakes and all the things they get into. But I also hope that you give yourself grace for those earlier times, because you were a new father. And you were new and learning and understanding that with a whole new, dynamic. So
I accept that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. That is good.
Yeah, I want to get into another segment, rapid response. Okay, so you're gonna fill in the blank.
Let's go.
All right, vulnerability makes me feel blank.
Whole.
My biggest strength is blank.
Loving.
If I could tell my younger self one thing, it would be
find joy.
Yeah. When I need inspiration, I turn to
God.
Preach. All right, baby. Darius, thank you for this.
We
close to being done, but I like any last words, any last thoughts, anything that you was like, man, I wish he had asked me about that so I can get that off my chest. Anything like that you got that you want to share, or just a tip to somebody out there who needs it.
Nah, man, I don't have anything that I wish you would have asked. I just appreciate this conversation. I would lead with gratitude and just say thank you for having this moment and for allowing me to have this space and to share. Shout out to the behind the scenes guys, Jamie and Elliot over there.
Shout out.
They're doing a great job. But like, I just appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak and have a conversation, like a real authentic conversation, specifically around vulnerability. But to wrap, I'll just say, man, it's so important. Like, as Stevie Wonder said, love is in need. Like, we have to be able to show love consistently. And so if you can learn to just love people right where they are, not with any expectations or preconceived notions. I think that will help things, help you have a better life and help people to exist more closely together. And so I say that from a business perspective, if you're interested in having these type of real relationships with your people, and you're interested in building a culture and community of connection, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to help.
Absolutely. And how can people reach you? How can they, with socials?
Shoot me an email.
Yeah.
My email is just darius.e.moore@gmail.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, same darius.e.moore. On IG, I am Genesis Thought.
Yes.
I'm gonna lean more into that soon, so stay tuned. And then I actually have a podcast that's coming out soon, and I'm not gonna put a date on it yet, but it's called Let's Build Something. And it's conversations like these, but it's really driven towards finding those things that we're all working towards and how we're all trying to build ourselves together.
I love that, brother. Man, thank you. I'm thankful to have you here. If you are new, if you are old, if you've been around, if you've been on the vulnerability muscle journey, thank you. I appreciate you. Follow us, like, subscribe, rate, and review, because that helps this podcast grow to reach more people. If you found this valuable, somebody else could find it valuable. And so like, review, share, whether it's YouTube, whether it is Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, definitely please follow, support, and show us some love. Yeah. But Darius, man, with all the things that you could be doing and all the places you could be, I appreciate you being here with me, embracing vulnerability.
100%, man. I love it, man. You my brother, Reggie Reg, man. I appreciate this, bro. And that's your nickname,
Reggie Reg.
Reggie Reg.
All right, I'll take
always
it.
what I do.
All right,
but I appreciate this, man. Thank you. Thank you for creating a space where we can be vulnerable and we can have honest conversations. Like, that means a lot to the world and the universe. And I thank you for putting this out.
Absolutely, brother. Much love, bro.
You
love
too,
you,
bro. Yeah, love you too, man.
Thank you for joining us in another episode of Vulnerability Muscle. If you've enjoyed these conversations around vulnerability, please consider leaving a review. Your feedback not only motivates us to continue to do the work that we do, but it allows other people to witness the power of vulnerability. Share your thoughts on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or wherever you're listening from. And don't forget to spread the word. You can follow us at Vulnerability Muscle on Instagram, and me personally at Reggie D Ford across all platforms. Visit vulnerabilitymuscle.com for additional resources and support. And remember, embracing vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. It is the source of your greatest strength. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but most workouts are. So keep flexing that vulnerability muscle.